Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Well, today we're going to do something just a little bit different, and it's all based around the 737, a study level 737, either the PMDG or the X-Plane 12 737s. And we're not even going to fly today. We're not even going to do a full startup, but we are going to talk about one particular part of the startup that is very, very important. Particularly if you want to add a little bit of realism and have just a little bit more fun starting up and using your study level 737. So what I'm going to talk to you today about is the safety checks and the fire checks that we do before we actually fire up the engines in a Boeing 737. Now, the big time YouTubers don't talk about this most of the time. They'll kick the tires, light the fires, and away they go. And that's what I do many times because I just want to get up and flying. But this PMDG and the X-Plane 737, they have so many features and so many in-depth systems simulated in them that many of us laymen like me and you, or some of you, mainly me, will never ever get to fully understand and actually use. So I think from time to time it's a good thing to do, just to stop and have a look at one particular part of the plane that is so well simulated that most of us just brush over and never ever see. And unless you do this, it's a bit like owning a Ferrari and only driving at 30 k's around the block. You know, there is so much simulated in this plane. You can be years flying this plane and still be learning new stuff. So today we're going to go over something that most of us may not have never heard about before or heard before. Some of the stuff you will know about, of course. But for those of us like me who are just laymen and getting started and still learning, there is some good stuff in here that we can start to understand about the 737 and the starting up and safety and fire check procedures. Now, if I'm doing a startup right from scratch and I really want to be thorough, as if it was actually in real life, what I actually do as soon as I come into the plane is I would do a little bit of a walk through the cabin. And I do a walk through the cabin because I know there's been cleaners in here, maybe there's been maintenance people in here doing things, doing stuff, and I like to go through a walk through the cabin just to check that there's nothing being left behind, no cleaning equipment, no tools, anything like that that's been left on the ground, up on the shelf or anywhere, stuff that's been put down and forgotten about and hasn't been taken out of the plane. We don't want passengers or people to see this when they come into the plane, and I want to make sure it's a clean, safe environment for the cabin crew as they come on board. As captain of the aircraft, it's your job. You are the total, you are the number one responsible person for ensuring the safety of the people and the craft. So it's your responsibility to check everything and make sure everything is right, everything is clean, tidy and safe if you are the actual captain, because you are responsible for the aircraft and of course the safety of everyone on it. So that's the first thing I will do. I'll walk through the cabin, check for anything that may have been left behind. The next thing I will do is I will come into the cabin, and this is where the fun starts. This is where we start doing all our checks, starting from right from square one. I will look around the cabin and I will check that the hatch down here for the manual landing gear is closed, so no one can trip up, no one can be hindered by that being open. Where the maintenance crews or service people have had it open, it's always a good thing to check. Everything else is looking good, clean and tidy. Put away, there are no bags, no toolboxes or luggage or anything that's been put here. Now up here we also have a gas mask, and these things can be checked as well as part of the service. It does open and it does run, but that won't do it today for us. And also, while you're back here, I can also check the fuse board and see if there are any fuses that have popped out and not in the right place. You will see them because they will stand out above all the other ones there. And of course, you also have your fuses over this side as well. You've got your first aid kit there. Everything's packed away, tidy. It hasn't been opened and tampered with. So everything is good there. I would also come up here and check that the fuse box hasn't been opened. It is closed. And also the emergency rope is in place, and that is closed and secure and hasn't been tampered with as well. Now if you look over this side of the cabin, you'll see that there's no safety rope, no escape rope. So you're probably thinking, well, the guy on this side, he's got the escape rope. He can climb out the window and climb down to the ground if that is required. But how about the guy on the other side? Well, the fact of the matter is, guys, that this rope is long enough. It can go straight to the ground out this window. And it is always made long enough so that it can reach across the cabin out the left hand of the window and down to the ground as well. So the one rope can service both sides. If there's only one side of the plane which they can get out of, they make that call and they let the rope down that side of the plane where it is most safe. Okay, so we've checked the cabin, we've checked the floor area. We've checked the fuses. We've checked the safety rope. Everything is put away and clean and tidy right through the cabin. Now also, if we are being very, very thorough, we will check the first aid kit, and we will also check the fire extinguisher. We will check the expiry date on the fire extinguisher. And believe me, you get close enough, you can actually read it. It does have the expiry date on the fire extinguisher there. So if you're going to be really thorough, we might as well do everything properly. And those are things that you need to look at and need to check from time to time. Right, so let's get on with the safety procedures and fire test procedures when it comes to firing up the actual plane. Now, all aircraft have two forms of power available to them. They have DC power and AC power. DC power meaning direct current, in other words direct from a battery, your plane's battery, and AC power, alternative current. It could be coming from your APU or it could be coming from your engines itself. But the first thing we need to do, we cannot go directly to AC power or starting up the engines. We need to have DC power first. So that is the first port of call to start up your DC power. Now you don't just go straight to flick the switches and turn everything on. There are some checks that you need to do before you start switching on power to an aircraft. Because when you switch power onto an aircraft, there are hundreds, possibly thousands of things that are actually happening underneath the surface that you cannot hear, you cannot see. There's always consequences. There are always things that start to happen when you add power to an aircraft. So the first thing we're going to do is come down here. We're going to check that the flaps are up, the air brakes, speed brakes are down, the throttle is in the idle position, the park brake is on, and also the gear lever is actually down. Now we'll come up to the overhead panel and we'll see that the wiper blade switches are actually turned off. Now we have the generators in the off position. These switches can be set like that, and we can now add power, DC power, to the plane. You'll hear a few noises and then you cover the switch. So now that we have DC power, we are now free to go to and add AC power to the plane. There is another couple of things you need to check. Of course, you need to check the alternative power, the standby power. Standby power, check that that is in the off position or the auto position, and also the alternate flaps. Make sure that they are in the off position. Okay, so we've done our other checks. We have checked the windscreen wiper blades. We've done our checks on the lower panel of the aircraft. We've checked our generator, hydraulic switches are off. We can now go ahead and add AC power to the aircraft. We can go down to the panel here, go to Actions, Ground Services, Ground Power Request, and it is connecting. Switch that back to Menu. We will come up here and we can now see that ground power is available to us. We have done all our checks and safety checks, so we are okay to go to AC power. So what can we do while we're on AC power? We can start some of our checks, our safety and fire warning checks, and we can do some tests. So coming up to the top here, we have our airspeed warning tests. You can hear that clacking, number 1 and number 2. And here we have our stall warning test. Now you may not be able to hear those because the plane has got to be running on AC power for X amount of time before this can be actually activated and you can actually hear the stall warning, the horn going, the warning sound. You will not hear it until the plane has been on AC power for X amount of time. Now the next thing we're going to look at is our lights test. We can do our lights test here. There we go. Our warning lights test is on there. And also there's a test we can do here to check our master warning and caution lights come on there, and we can switch that off by hitting that there. Right, now let's look at the big one, our overheat warning system and our fire tests. And this is what a lot of people don't actually come to grips with. It took me a while, and a lot of people just gloss over it. They click the switch and hear the bells going and they think that's it, it's all done, we're fine. But there is a little bit more to it than that. So there's about 3 tests we have to do down here as part of this procedure. On this test switch here on the left, it is a fault in op test, okay? So this one is actually testing the systems, the lights and the connections, making sure everything is connected and working. So when we flick this over to the left, we should see our warning lights go off up here, and that will tell us that our fault in op test has been done and that everything is a-okay. Now on the other side of that, there is the overheat warning test or the fire test. So we're going to do that one after we've done this first one, which is to switch the switch over to the left and make sure that our warning lights and master caution lights do actually come on. So let's flick that over to the left. We'll come up here, and yes, the master caution light, the warning lights are on, and we can switch that off, but it will go off by itself after a while because it is on a timer. Okay, so that is that test done. The next one is the overheat warning test, or the fire test. We've got to switch this switch over to the left. Now before you do this, you need to click, just check these switches here. They need to be down. If you click them, you know they come up, okay? But you need to know that when there's a fire and you need to use them, you don't click them up. You've actually got to turn them around. Physically click them up and turn them around. I don't want to do it now. I don't want to set them off. So you click them up and you actually turn them around to set off the things like the fire extinguishers and all those things you need to do to put out the fire. And that's the way they work. They've got arrows at the top showing you which way you can turn them. So you need to just visually check that those three switches are actually down. If you click them, they'll come up and they'll go back down automatically. Okay, now switching this test over to the right for our overheat warning test, we need to see these three lights coming on. We need to hear the bell, and we need to see the master warning lights light up over here, up in the top right, left here. Okay. Now, when the bells go off and all the lights come on, we need to disarm it by hitting this master warning light here. We need to hit that switch and that will switch it off, deactivate it. But these three lights here, these three lights, fire warning lights, need to stay on after we've turned it off, just for a couple of seconds, and then they will turn off because they're on a timer. Okay, so we've got to switch this to the right, come up here, deactivate it because these lights will be lit up, and then we've got to check that these three lights are still on and switch themselves off after a very short period of time. Okay, so let's try that. Here we go. We'll switch it over to the right, lights on, up here, test, switch it off, lights still on, lights gone off. So that is a successful test. Okay, you've got to be fast. You got to be quite quick. Let's try it again. We'll switch it to the right. Three lights on, up here, switch it off, three lights still on, and then they come off. So when you hit this master caution switch to turn it off, these lights must stay on for about another 2 seconds, and that is a successful test. Okay. So there we are, we've done 2 tests. We've got another test over here for the fire extinguisher system. We're going to switch it to the left. We need to confirm that there are 3 lights on. 3 lights are on, confirm, and it switches itself off. Over to the right, for the right engine, 3 lights on, and it switches itself off. So that is a successful test for the fire extinguisher. Okay, so you think we're all done? Well, there's one more test that we need to do as far as the fire warning and overheating test, and that is the wheel well overheating test. The wheel well overheat detection test. Bit of a mouthful, isn't it? The wheel well overheat fire detection test. So that procedure is similar to what we've already been doing, but there's a little bit of a difference. If you look here, there's a little bell cutout button, and we need to check that this is working. We need to check that this is illuminated, and we need to check that this will actually switch it off. Okay? So we're going to do the same as we did before. We're going to flick this switch to the right. We're going to see the wheel well overheat detection warning light up. We're going to see the master warning lights light up here, and then we're going to hit the bell cut-off system to turn it off. Okay, switch it off. A lot happening in a short period of time. Okay, so let's test it out now. Here we go. Switch the switch over to the left. Wheel well detection lights on. This light's on. And I wasn't quick enough because we've got to come back in and we've got to use the bell cutoff here. So this time I won't go up top to check the lights, okay? I will stay down here. So let's do it again. Switch over to the right. Wheel well warning bell cutout, and the light stays on. Okay, the lights must stay on after you hit the bell cutout for a split second or a couple of seconds or so. That is a successful test. It's all very fast. Let's try it again. Over to the right, all lights on, bell cutout, lights still on, lights off. That is a successful test, guys. So that is all our fire warning and overheating tests complete. And you're probably thinking, well, that's a heck of a handful, this well fire warning system. Is that actually all modeled in the plane? Is that really ever going to happen? Yes, I've had a fire in one of my 737s in the past. I think I did a video on it, and I had to use these switches down here to put out the fire extinguishers, and they worked. They did put out the fire, and it was a good thing that I did actually spend the time checking that out. Now let's have a look outside the plane. Let's actually have a look in the wheel well over here. And I'm not sure if we can see it because it may be a little bit dark. But when it's light, and you do have enough light, you can actually see the tanks that hold the fire extinguisher fluid or the powder. I can't quite see them today, but you will see the hoses. You see the label up here. Look at this. This is how well this plane is modeled and textured, guys. Servicing chart up inside the wheel well. Main gear 737 next generation. Oil servicing instructions. How cool is that? How cool is that? It's a little bit too dark to see, but maybe my eyes are going to adjust a little bit if I sit here long enough. You can see the oil tanks for the hydraulic fluid, but I can't quite see it. I can't quite see it today to show you. But believe me, guys, it is all modeled in the aircraft, and depending on where you have your difficulty settings or your failure settings, at some stage you may very well need to use your fire extinguishers to put out a wheel well fire or a engine fire. Okay, so once we've done all those checks, and we can go ahead with the rest of our engine startup. We can start up the APU and do all the rest of the things that we need to do to get the plane ready to depart. But that's about it for today. I just wanted to go over those safety and fire warning overheating system checks, just as an interesting little video, just to take the time out to have a look at how well this plane is modeled and simulated. And next time you do your startup, you will have some idea, a better idea hopefully, of how to go through all these little tests. Thanks for watching, guys. If there's anything I've missed, please, I'm not an expert. I'm just sharing what I've learned. If I've done things out of order, or if you know a little bit more than me, and most people do, put it in the comments. Or if there's something I've missed, put it in the comments so we can all learn from it. I hope you've learned something. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hit the like, subscribe, and thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next video. Over and out. Cheers.